All right. Well, welcome everybody to our second live roundtable where I bring in experts from around the fitness industry and we get to discuss everything fitness and nutrition related for women over the age of 40. I am your host, Erin McDermott. I've been strength training for over 30 years. I'm a nurse for 25 years, plant-based athlete, bikini competitor, and coach. And I'm coaching these amazing ladies that you see on the screen today. And I'm so excited to be able to get to speak with Chris Tuttle, who's a registered dietitian. He is a retired IFBB professional bodybuilder, contest prep coach. He started Tuttle Nutrition in 2011, enabling him to better share his extensive knowledge of nutrition and exercise with his clients, specifically offering services and expertise in weight loss, sports performance, contest prep, medical nutrition therapy, bodybuilding, fitness and figure competitions, and educational lectures. All right. Well, we're going to get right started right away. And we want to know, Lisa, put your phone on mute, please. We are really, mostly everybody you see here is in their 50s. And a lot of them are new to strength training and new to eating on a healthier diet. So what advice would you give a new person in their 50s who wants to gain muscle, but also lose body fat?
All right. So the best, it's to understand fully how everything works. A lot of people will they don't want to know too much information. And I usually think I'm against that. I want people to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. So first and foremost, generally you need a calorie surplus to put on new lean tissue. You need a calorie deficit to burn body fat. However, in circumstances where, say, somebody is completely sedentary, they're not used to a resistance training program, they're not used to eating a healthier diet, they can see what is called a recomposition change, where you will see a certain degree of lean mass that goes up, and you'll see a percent of fat mass that goes down. However, that's very short-lived. In other words, you're not going to be doing that recomposition phase for years and years and years. You're going to get to the point where you're going to have to go to one extreme to gain more muscle or more extreme to lose more body fat. However, lean mass is incredibly important. Obviously, as we age, weight training, bone density, more muscle mass we require. The more muscle mass you have, the decreased chance of more mortality, morbidity rate as you get older. So as we generally get older, we lose muscle mass. We have to stay on more weight training to keep muscle mass, and not to mention keep our shape to our body, right? As you ladies might know, as you get older, redistribution of body fat occurs in the female body as hormones change. So it becomes more sought off practice for women to want to be like, I want to maintain my shape and my legs, my hips, my arms. I don't want to look so bean polish, especially as females start to lose body weight and body fat. If they don't have a potential muscle mass, they become almost like a skinnier fat individual. So lean mass becomes super important. But incorporating resistance training, it doesn't require a lot. However, it does require progressive overload, meaning you might start weight training and you might do X number of weight, X number of reps, sets, etc. And 6 months down the line, your body stops changing. There's going to need to be a constant change in stimulus, constantly challenging the body. And one of the biggest mistakes I see with women in general population is they go to the gym because they're going through the motions. They're going through the motions of what they think they need to do, but they don't understand that you have to challenge the muscle differently. And that could mean so many different things, but it has to be more difficult over time as your body adapts. So you keep changing. Doesn't require a lot of work in regards to people like, oh, I don't have time to train every day. You don't need to do that. Weight training an hour, 4 times per week, what I think would be ideal for most people, but it's what you're doing within that hour when you train. More obviously can be conducive, but we also have to look at realisticness in our lifestyle and what we have time for. We don't have the same time we did in our early 20s. And then as far as nutrition, healthy eating, that is a lifestyle. And people hear that all the time. They hate hearing that, but it is. And the reason it's a lifestyle is so many times, everybody in here has probably done this. Everybody always hears this. I went on vacation, got a flat tire. I just said, screw it. I went off my diet. It was Thursday. I'll just restart on Monday. And then Monday comes and then their friend calls. I'm like, hey, there's a dinner tonight. Want to go? I'll just start next week. And then before they know it, they're up 15, 20 pounds. They haven't been eating. And the bottom line is we don't do that with work. We don't do that with our kids. We don't do that with showering, but we tend to always do that with our diet. We make an excuse to why we're not going to do that. So finding a sustainable nutrition plan that you enjoy, that you like, that you get into is the way to implement it into your lifestyle where it becomes just something that you do. There's never any thought in my mind on what I'm going to eat that day, or there's no battle in my mind if I'm like, oh, should I make my lunch or should I head to Burger King? Like it doesn't cross my mind because I've almost been eating this way for almost 20 years. It's become who I am. I've gotten into it. I've educated myself to do it. And I've educated myself to learn how to make a variety of food with the same food ingredients, right? Because ultimately the best cook is the person who's going to take simple food ingredients and make them taste good differently over time. But sustainability, nutrition, and of course, understanding the process of weight training and of course, your goals. You don't want to constantly be striving for body fat loss and lean mass. Anytime a client comes to me in that, I say, our focus is to get the body fat off first. And then you're going to implement and learn how to weight train. And then from there, once you're at a body fat that you're happy with, then you focus on building muscle where those calories will have to slowly kind of creep up to maintenance, if not slightly above maintenance, to support new lean tissue growth. And then it becomes more advanced techniques of training, et cetera, et cetera. But weight training is something that more people need to do and be educated on. It's a lot of misconceptions with weight training.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that is my passion in life, to teach women over 40 to strength train. So with the food subject, flexible dieting, you know, when you say, okay, we're going to give you this amount of calories, as long as you stay within your budget, you know, feel free to eat whatever you want. But, you know, we have to actually focus on the quality of food too. So can you talk about flexible dieting a little bit?
Yeah. So flexible dieting is, you know, something people take out of context, right? And they'll start to drive it in the wrong way. Well, I could fit in a few Oreos, or I could fit in this. And all of a sudden, you know, 80% of their calories are coming from food that doesn't have a lot of micronutrients, or it's not delivering the body what it needs to change. It doesn't mean that certain foods can't have its place in our diet, but generally, I don't think on a regular basis, as on a daily basis, should be more like a treat. So flexible dieting, I like to think about it as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, right? I don't like to count calories. I might have a calorie amount for a client. And then once I find their macros with that calories, then I might give them those macros. And they're like, all right, your macros are 200 carbs a day, 100 grams of protein, and 60 grams of fat. And then you can divide that in 3 or 4 meals a day. And then you can mix and match your carbs, proteins, and fats from there. So I want people to, you know, I give them a list of like fruits, starches, all the things they like to eat, and then they can formulate those meals within those macro parameters. But where, you know, people sometimes will say, well, it only matters the total calories in per day. Yes, it does. And it doesn't, because it also has a huge impact on how you feel. If you're jamming all your calories in one meal, or you're not eating the calorie makeup of junk food or food that's not conducive to what your body needs to change, then you're going to have ups and downs, and your glycemic control is going to be all over the place. You might have cravings up and down. You might have gastral distress. So you still want to eat in a way that's a little more balanced, right? 3 feeds per day, 2 snacks in between those meals, and keep a regimen eating schedule that way. And then from there, you can mix and match your macros. This morning, do I want English muffins? Do I want toast? Do I want cream of rice? Do I want oatmeal, cream of wheat, grits? Do I want Van's gluten-free waffles? Okay, I'll do Van's gluten-free waffles. And then, okay, so that has 12 grams of protein. I need 2 whole eggs, a couple of egg whites. So you can mix and match those macros and make different meals. People demonize certain foods like, oh, you can't eat bread. Anybody who follows a diet where you're never, ever going to eat bread and you love bread, eventually it's not going to work. So you got to have to learn a way to incorporate things that you generally like without feeling too restricted on these plans as well. But again, you can't use it to your advantage to eat cookies and junk all day long. And the other point is, as you get older, and this is for men and as well, your ability to utilize protein becomes less. So you actually need more and more protein as you age. So it becomes more important to focus on protein-rich foods in your meal plan, in your meals as you get older, much more than when you're younger. So more and more studies are showing the differences, and especially as we get older, most people tend to eat less and less protein, believe it or not now. So we got to be very mindful of that. And thank God, like, your experience with helping vegans is there's a lot of food products out there. There's a lot of supplementation that people can utilize that will be easier, simple, where you can get that protein in per day.
Okay. And I want to talk about intermittent fasting because it seems to be all these fads going around, and now people only want to eat one meal a day while they want to start a strength training program, or they want to build muscle and they want to recomp their body but not eat till 8 o'clock at night, So can you talk about intermittent fasting?
Yeah, intermittent fasting is just another fad. It's already more and more studies are actually coming out proving that it's not all what it's made out to be. Anytime a new diet concept comes to light, it's usually all the people that are pushing for it are doing the studies. There's bias in it. Look at how good this is. And then all of a sudden, when you start comparing this method, intermittent fasting, with just a low calorie method or just a low carbohydrate method, you start to see that there's less and less gap in between. All in all, intermittent fasting it's creating a calorie deficit. So fad diets create calorie deficits. The only problem with fad diets, they're generally extreme. They're not sustainable. I've had more clients fail and develop eating disorders with intermittent fasting than any other fad diet, because you're restricting, and then they usually will start with like a 16-hour fast, and they're like an 18-hour fast. Then they're like, oh, maybe I'll fast 20 hours and then I'll just eat 4. And then they go crazy and they eat and they get digestive issues, and they're usually eating some of the wrong things as well. Now, fasting for 12 hours or 14 hours, sure. But falling to extremes in any way, it's not going to work. I mean, America is still becoming more and more overweight every year, despite all these fad diets, despite all the weight loss surgeries, despite the weight loss drugs, the millions and millions and millions of dollars spent with gyms, exercise. America's still getting overweight because the methods they're choosing, if they want the quick fast, and they're choosing methods that are not sustainable. And that's the problem. Choosing plans that are unsustainable. And the other thing fad diets provide is motivation to get started, right? People are like, oh, this diet sounds very interesting. It sounds scientific. And scientific, they associate scientific or complicated with effectiveness, which is not the case. And then they'll jump on the bandwagon, do it, lose a bunch of weight, and then they'll gain all the weight back again within 12 to 24 months. And then most people will actually end up gaining more weight back than they lost with that dieting phase. And there's research that shows that over and over and over again. But the bottom line is sustainability is number one. And I tell my clients, I'm like, you do intermittent fast? Like, oh, I love it. It feels great. You do the rest of your life? Oh, I don't think so. Then there's also no backup plan for people who follow intermittent fasting, right? They go, I'm going to do this till I lose 30 pounds. Okay, but then what? Or are you going to go back to the normal way of eating? Because most people do, and then they gain all the way back again.
All right. Well, thank you. And I know we talked about this in our previous talk, but I want to get your perspective on it. Alcohol. What I'm really surprised about is the amount of alcohol women over 40 drink after they get home from a long day of work. They're doing 3 to 4 days a week, and before you know it, it's a bottle of wine. Some people are doing martinis, or they do the clean, vodka. Can you just talk about alcohol? Because me as a nurse, that makes me nervous, because I have seen the toxic effects of pancreatitis and liver disease. So what are some other healthy habits people can do other than grabbing alcohol?
Yeah, that's I get this conversation a lot with individuals, and the bottom line is alcohol, as much as nobody wants to hear this, it's cytotoxic. It destroys every cell in the body. So you're drinking the poison to get an effect psychologically to relax. And then the delivery mechanism, what you're getting as far as alcohol goes, is it a shot? Is it grain alcohol? Is it wine? Is it a sugary drink? Now you're delivering a bunch of calories. And honestly, one of the biggest issues I have with alcohol, with clients trying to lose weight or their lifestyle, is what the alcohol comes with. Alcohol usually comes with social eating, social drinking, which ends up being bar food, snack food. It ends up being staying out later than normal. It ends up being, oh, screw it. I deserve this. I deserve to go make some brownies or make this. And then it turns into something else besides just one glass of wine. Most people can't get away with just having 6 ounces or 5 ounces of wine once per day. Most people can't do that. Some people can. But alcohol in general, it's not conducive to the overall performance lifestyle when you're trying to change your physique. But honestly, my biggest quarrel with it with people is what comes with it. That's really what it is. I mean, outside of overdoing it, where people are having 2 or 3 drinks, and obviously we all know the dementia, Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular risk that occurs in women after 2 drinks. So weight loss, that's a whole nother story. Obviously, alcohol inhibits fat loss. It digests very quickly in the liver and breaks down. That's why people who drink alcohol generally have a very chubby stomach, and they don't have chubby arms and chubby legs. They have like this little gooey fat around their belly because the alcohol digests so quickly, it stores fat immediately around the midsection. Not to mention you get the visceral fat around the organs as well. So I just tell people this with alcohol, and I don't like to go to extremes, is if they are into drinking wine, I'll say, okay, how much wine do you drink? Okay, I drink 4 glasses of wine. Is there any other alcohol you like? Well, I don't mind Tito's and maybe a diet Sprite or something. I'm like, okay, so maybe having 2 drinks instead of the 4 glasses of wine. Now you're cutting that calorie load almost less than half. And they're doing it on these special occasions only, instead of it being like a daily practice. So it's progressing them in a way that's a healthier option, and then eventually maybe getting rid of it altogether. But it's very hard for older people who are so used to that type of response. They go home from work, they're stressed, their brain automatically wants to go to something that's stress relieving. And unfortunately, sometimes if you take away the alcohol, it goes to Ritz crackers. It goes to something else that's a release to them to be able to get that type of feel good response in the brain. So again, I like a progression, starting where they are and working them way into a better option, and eventually maybe stopping, but eventually maybe not. It's whatever that individual can handle, because at the end of the day, it's sustainability. If they say, every time I don't drink at all and I don't get that release, I end up binge eating on, a bunch of sugar and crackers. Well, that's not good either, right? But I don't allow alcohol in my programs. But although one time it was a feat, I got some guy to lose 65 pounds and he was drinking 15 liters of beer a week.
Wow.
He was an alcoholic. He came to me and he goes, listen, I'm telling you right now, I'm a heavy alcoholic. He goes, I drink about 30 liters of beer a week. And he goes, I'm not going to give him my alcohol, but my blood work is a disaster. And the doctor, I got to get him off my back. So I rationed his beer, and we progressively rationed his food down and his alcohol down and increased his calories. And he lost all this weight and his blood work improved drastically, but he had no intentions of stopping.
So did you just say you don't allow alcohol in your programs?
Yeah,
Okay.
I generally, I tell them this, I go, listen, if you're hiring me to get 20 pounds off in 12 weeks, then you're going to hang it out for 12 weeks and get the job done. Just like if you're going to if you're going to purchase a course for college for continuing education credits and you're there to learn, you're paying $2,000 a credit, you're going to go to class, you're going to do the work, and you do the best you can. And then once it's over, then you could do whatever you want. But right now, when you have a goal and you have an objective, you do everything you can to complete that objective. So I don't allow it. In their maintenance plans, I might bring it in and have them with the parameters, like as I told you, where they might be like, okay, you can do this once or twice per week, but it's the guys that are usually the problem, because it's usually like, oh, dude, I drink like 10 beers, or, they end up having 2 or 3 mixed drinks, and then they start drinking shots, and then they're in Wendy's drive-through, and then they're, so.
All right. I'm going to ask you one question. I'm going to open up for the ladies. Water. I know it's like, as a competitor, it's a gallon of water, no matter what. What about for lifestyle clients who are just starting out for, strength training and trying to eat right? How much water should they be drinking?
Yeah, water intake comes down to, again, sustainability, right? We have the optimal and we have the ideal, and we have like what's realistic. So generally for women, I have them try to shoot for 2.5 liters of total water per day. If they're a petite female, they're 5 feet, then maybe 2 liters. But, your general range of hydration for all human beings, excluding ambient temperature and working outside, or obviously environmental factors, if you're a marathon runner, just general population, is between 2.5 and 3.5 liters. It's actually 2.2 and like 3.7 liters of water that somebody might need. Obviously, if somebody's 6'7", they're a male, they're consuming 5,000 calories a day to maintain that weight, their water requirements are going to be higher. If somebody's 5 feet, they work in an office, they're not set, they live in Vermont and Maine, it's not get very hot, then their water requirements will be lower, but at least 2 liters, at least. And I tell them that it's not too difficult to accomplish if someone's mindful with their hydration. And I usually say, get up out of bed, depending what the size of the person, drink 250 mLs or 500 mLs of water the second you get out of bed. That's the first thing you do. Drink the water, get it done, put your coffee maker on, start doing whatever you do for work. Then you have your coffee for breakfast or whatever liquid for breakfast. And then you fill up another, maybe a 60-ounce bottle of water, and then you're out the door. By the time you get to work and you're 11 o'clock in the morning, you're already almost a liter, 1.2 liters in. And that's the way to do it. It's the opposite, where people go, I drink water all day long, and they start drinking so much all at once in the middle of the day. Then they're just peeing like crazy all night long and they can't sleep. So it's really front loading the water that's better, because it helps drastically with digestion, moving your bowels, fighting fatigue, and of course, fighting appetite. So my clients generally who are always hungry, sure enough, you ask them about you do a little recall of their fluid, and they're not drinking enough water. And as soon as you get enough water, within 3 days, their energy improves, digestion improves, bowel movements are moving, and their appetite's down.
Awesome. All right. Well, you guys, I'm going to open up to you guys. So please take advantage of this. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay. My question would be, it's like one of two. I'm very much into preventative medicine, so I take supplements. What's your general advice on supplements? Because obviously sustaining and building, muscle, what supplements would you advise us women of a, middle age, like 40 plus, I'm 50 plus, but what would you advise us to be taking? I mean, I'm trying to take supplements to help me through menopause, because I feel as though I've got menopause brain and I need to focus a little bit better. But I'm also wanting to, I'm always worried, and Erin knows this, I tend not to push myself because I'm always worried that I'm not strong enough or I'm going to hurt myself. So I just, what's your intake on supplements to become healthy and strong?
Yeah. So supplements, unfortunately, there's not a universal plethora of supplements that I would recommend for everybody, because supplement means you're usually filling a deficit. You're fixing somebody's issue in their diet. They don't have enough selenium. They don't have enough vitamin D. They don't have enough calcium. Then you're individualizing those supplements for that individual. Like yourself, you said going through menopause, you might be taking estrogen management supplements like DIM or something, where that would be an individual reason for something doing that. And those supplements have shown to help. The problem I have with supplements is what people think they're going to get from them. And, had my master's in nutrition, all we did was just review studies. And you realize that 90% of the studies that are produced are just total crap. So it's very hard to prove that a particular supplement might do something other than anecdotal response or having tons of research on a particular product that eventually you see, well, wow, these people who take fish oil tend to have lower triglycerides. Okay, so that might be the case for that person. But if I was going to say supplements that I think that do have an impact on people's lab work, like I've legitimately have seen it, citrus bergamot, it's a supplement used to help almost improve glycemic control in diabetes, but it is also shown to lower LDL and increase HDL, the good cholesterol. Obviously, your fish oils, they used to say helps your lipids, your cholesterol. It doesn't to a large degree. It does with triglycerides. But of course, as many of you guys might know, it's also been shown to help people with ADHD because the healthy fatty acids and the myelin in the brain. Then, of course, inflammation. Now, that's a tricky word. Inflammation, more like joint pain. So athletes heavy lifters who have joint pain tend to see a change in those joints with fish oil. And then I'm sure you guys might have heard of curcumin or turmeric, right? Turmeric has a plethora of benefits. Notably, I find the biggest change with turmeric is joint pain and just achiness in general. But there's a lot of different, because like turmeric has been used for rheumatoid arthritis to ease the pain in rheumatoid arthritis. And certain studies even compared it with Advil and turmeric with rheumatoid arthritis, and they couldn't, the subjects couldn't tell the difference. So that's something to be said, but you take it with a grain of salt because you have to really look at the research really to see how their study was conducted. Of course, vitamin D, most of us are not getting the vitamin D we need. We're not outside. But honestly, just to blindly recommend vitamin D and the dosage, you're better off just getting a serum vitamin D level. It's inexpensive, depending what state you're in. You can purchase it yourself or go to your doctor, directlabs.com or privatemdlabs.com. You can order a vitamin D lab slip for like $40 and go get it done on your own. And then the results get emailed to you so you can see where your vitamin D levels are falling. And I can tell you, at least 60% of my clients who get their vitamin D checked are on the low end of normal. And they're already supplementing vitamin D, which is more of a shocker. They're just not supplementing enough. Other supplements, zinc's important, but people tend to overdo zinc, right? 50 milligrams a day. You don't need 50 milligrams a day, 25 milligrams at most, because you can get less in food. I'm a big advocate of food. So like my nuts, I'll have mixed nuts. I'll have almonds, cashews, and Brazilian nuts, just because the amount of micronutrients I'm getting, all that together. I do cycle my vegetables. I do have a variety of fruits and berries. Try to get most of my stuff from food. And of course, sleep, managing stress. What other supplements? Obviously, you have Biquinol for your heart. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can use, but just, sometimes it's always good to review the supplements you're taking. Sometimes look at the research on PubMed, Medline Plus, and kind of really dig deep on why you're taking it and if it's something that has merit. Because I can tell you a lot of supplements over the years I've seen just didn't have merit, especially some cholesterol lowering supplements. I help a lot of people pass their life insurance exam. They come to me, they're like, dude, I have 5 weeks. I got to get my lipids perfect. What do I need to do? And I'll put them on the supplements I know that work, change their diet, drastic caloric deficit to get them to pass, to get their best rate. And some supplements just don't do nothing, don't do anything. Because I like to see the change, but that's pretty it. And as far as pushing yourself, never be afraid to push yourself if your technique is correct, you're moving slow and controlled, and your repetitions are at least 10 reps. Like the chance of you hurting yourself doing weight that you can use for 10 to 15 reps, very slow and controlled, very, 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 very small. But the other thing is difficult to get people to understand is how much more potential you have in your body than you think you do. And that's the biggest shocker. Like even guys young like me, who I train for bodybuilding shows and other types of physical events like strongman, I'll put them through a workout and I'll push them 30% past what they normally push. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I can do that. And then a year later, they're 30% more than they were, because mentally you become a little more accustomed to that uncomfortable feeling, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yep.
So what do you feel about calcium for women especially?
Yeah, calcium is important. But again, you got to check your vitamin D and your calcium blood levels,
Right.
and then go from there. But people used to think, oh, you know, I don't need vitamin D. I just need a large calcium. I'm sure. Remember when you were younger, it was all about calcium women, women. You got to take 1,200 milligrams or 600 milligrams a day. Now they're like, well, having a load of calcium in the diet could potentially have some heart problems, because the calcium the calcium can harden and contribute to plaque buildup. So you always have to have calcium management. Back to the supplement, vitamin K2, MK7, vitamin K2, MK7 is very important for management of calcium in the body. So those are very important for your heart as well. And I think everybody should be taking that, honestly. Is in our diet, we don't really have that unless we're eating the aged cheeses and the grass-fed beefs, etc. But back to calcium, not a huge pusher of calcium. I'm usually a pusher of resistance training for women for their bone density. And of course, looking at their diet as a whole to make sure they have an adequate amount of calcium, but I'm really focusing on the vitamin D.
Okay.
I don't need a woman to take 2,000 milligrams of calcium a day unless there's a specific reason for that individual to do that.
Okay. So I'm 67 and recently just started working out with Erin December 1st. I've been in and out of the gym, you know, yoga, doing different kinds of things, but I'm really focused on strength training, especially right now. I do have osteopenia. And I feel, you know, I'm feeling a little better and a little stronger since doing the workout with Erin. And so on my fitness app, it says for like 88 grams of protein a day. Should I have more than that, or what would your recommendation be?
So
I haven't gone over Sharon's. That's why she's asking.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, but we will get there. But I want you to
Okay.
ask Chris.
okay. So I'm answering that now?
Yeah, I
yeah.
think because my fitness pal is giving her the suggestion.
Okay, yeah. So they said that an upper threshold of 1.2 to 1.3 grams per kilogram of body weight is as high as you can go up to. So for example, if you don't mind, give me your weight, or you can even give me
135 pounds.
Yeah, so that's plenty. That's
Okay,
good.
good.
Yeah,
Okay,
good range.
good.
And it makes sure that they're good sources, right?
Mhm.
Because you know the difficulty sometimes with counting protein is protein has different values due to leucine content. So when you're looking at the amount of leucine, which is a particular amino acid that's responsible for protein synthesis, you need to eat like 4 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to get the amount of leucine in 3 ounces of red meat.
Okay.
So there's certain values of meat, and like as far as like best qualities of protein, salmon, grass-fed beef, whole eggs, real good sources. Fish is good, of course, too, but it's very lean. It doesn't have a lot of micronutrients outside of salmon.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? We want to be respectful of the time. So go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, so I'm a vegan and I wanted to know if there were any supplements specific to that you might recommend.
Yeah, you'd have to go through your diet and put it into a nutritional database and see what you're constantly being deficient on. Usually, if I didn't know, and you just tell me what I'm telling you now, I would say, 1, make sure your fruits and vegetables, you're cycling them. You're having a variety of them. Maybe look for ones that are a little more nutrient dense than others, meaning your berries tend to be a little more nutrient dense than, say, your grapes, right? Citrus fruits are great. Focusing on looking at your protein content, looking at like Alvarado Street bread or Ezekiel bread, because they tend to be complete sources of protein in their bread. So that way you can have an easier time getting that protein in, putting peanut butter on there. getting a thing of mixed nuts, making sure, like I said, I mentioned a variety of mixed nuts, adding mushrooms and carrots to your food, to your meals, or your salads, taking a multivitamin. And then, of course, if you're still have trouble hitting your goals with your protein, maybe get like a Vega One Sport or a protein powder that's obviously vegan that you can make smoothies with. That way you have the convenience of getting the protein you need, but store the micronutrient density. But it usually comes down to that. Nutrient database can really tell you what you're deficient on. Every vegan's going to be a little different, because if you're home and you're cooking more home-based meals, and you're doing rice and beans, and you're good at complementing your proteins, and you're getting a variety of food, versus the college vegan who's eating nothing but vegan bars and food products, they're going to run into some major deficiencies. Because we've helped quite a few vegans when we used to help them because their hair would fall out, and they used to just rely on vegan products, the bars and things that are quick and convenient, which, as you guys know, convenience comes with a cost.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Does anybody have one more burning question?
I have a
Go ahead,
question.
Lisa.
Water is fine. What else can I drink besides water? Fruit, what's the best choices for fruit? This is all about getting lean body mass. And cheese, if I have my egg whites and I have the egg, what kind of cheese is the best choice?
Okay, so I personally believe, I'll answer that backwards. The best choices of cheese would be like a real aged cheddar cheese.
Okay.
Cabots are great. And the reason real cheddar cheese that's aged is actually lactose free. So for as far as people who are lactose intolerant, they can tolerate that. It digests better. If it's an aged cheese, it's going to have higher amount of K2 in it. So it's healthier for your heart, the vitamin K content. Now, this is not Kraft cheddar cheese, of course, the real block cheddar cheese. And then fruits. So for fruits, sometimes you can run digestion problems like bananas, right? When bananas become too ripe, they form high amount of sugar. The high amount of sugar causes a lot of fermentation in the gut, and you can get gas and you can get bloated. Apples. So I'm just going to go over you a couple of fruits that I usually recommend on my plans. Apples are great because of sorbitol. All right. Sorbitol can help you move your bowels. So when it comes to like apples are a good combination. Obviously, apples come in different flavors, so you can have a good variety, even though it's still an apple. Blueberries, strawberries are great. But the only problem is strawberries is listed like one of the dirty dozen, because the amount of pesticides are used to keep strawberries alive. So what I personally do is I will buy the organic strawberries when they're on sale, and I will buy all of them. And then I will take them, rinse them, slice them, and I put them all in bags. So I have bags and bags and bags of fresh strawberries. So when I make my hot cereals, I just pop a few frozen strawberries in and they melt, and it gives it, to me, a better flavor. Kiwis are good. Kiwis are extremely high in vitamin C, more than an orange is, and they're obviously tolerable. They're pain to peel, but other than that, and citrus fruits, oranges, grapefruits. Grapefruit might, wear away your teeth enamel if you have too much of it, but because they're so acidic. But citrus fruits, oranges for sure.
All right. Was that all right?
Did you have one more question in there? I forgot.
Other than water.
Oh, water.
I
So
like
I allow quite a bit of freedom in regards to that. I usually will recommend things like Fresca, Diet Sprite as kind of like the front runners in the carbonated world of soda. And then I might allow more Diet Cokes, things like that, because it becomes sustainability. Is Diet Coke wonderful for you? You can make arguments that it's not, but is it better than drinking tons of regular Coke? Sure. So if someone's going to be more adherent to a plan by having a Diet Coke or two a day, I'm okay with that. But I usually like clear sodas, Diet Sprite, Frescas, water enhancers, the fluid water enhancers, to add a little flavor to water is fine. Crystal Light, however, in smaller doses. I've seen people with Crystal Light kind of go overboard and they get very distended. I don't know quite why. I just know that Crystal Light, when people start putting it in a gallon jug and they start pounding all day long, their belly looks like they're pregnant. So I don't really exactly know why, but that's it right there.
Maybe that's my problem. I'm glad you brought up Crystal. I drink a lot of Crystal Light, so I'm glad you
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes sometimes things don't make sense, but when you see it so much and you're like, just humor me, just pull it out for 3 days. And they pull it for 3 days, you're like, my stomach's completely flat, and you're like, well, while somebody else does the same thing, it doesn't have the same response.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's frustrating because it's not a one size fits all for everybody.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we're going to be respectful of your time, Chris. I'm very grateful you took the opportunity to speak with all of us. And I'm so inspired. I think that everybody here is inspired to live a healthy life for the next 50 years, right?
Right.
And we really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. And I was closing one thing. And like,
Okay.
listen, I know eating healthy and changing your lifestyle is hard. I do. I understand. I do that every day with my clients. And we're always going to want to habitually step back to how we were eating as a child. That gives us comfort in our mind. We're always going to crave those foods. We can always figure out a way to learn to have them in our plan. But if we want to be healthy, we want to live a long life, we have to make adjustments. So there's going to be times where it's difficult. You just have to figure out a system that works for you. It's possible, but you have to understand in your mind, there's no trick. It's just, oh, this is this easy. You can do it this way. Doesn't work that way. I've seen so many people just go from diet to diet to diet to diet to diet to diet, develop eating disorders. They're obsessed with their body weight. Their quality of life is plummeted because they're just over analyzing everything. And that's not what we're looking for when it comes to nutrition. We want to feel better. We want to live longer. And most importantly, the time to act is now, because the older you get, the harder it's going to get.
Mhm.
So the more you figure this out now and establish a good, new, healthy eating pattern for yourself, you're going to feel better. I'm sure you see it yourself. Every client I've helped that lose a substantial amount of weight and they're middle-aged or older, they're like, they still message me sometimes. They're like, Chris, it's been 4 years, kept 70 pounds off. I'm running a marathon next week. I never thought I hate running because I never thought I'd run a marathon in my life. And their life is just completely different because once you get it and you adopt it, it works.
Mhm.
But you just got to understand that it's going to be tough. You're going to have obstacles. And one more thing, your relationship with food. If you mess up, you binge eat, oh, well, move on. As soon as you have that guilt, you feel bad about yourself. You start falling to extremes the next day. You start doing excessive cardio. You're just going to repeat that cycle over and over. And that disordered eating is going to get worse and worse and worse. And you'll get further and further from your goal. If you eat meat lovers pizza tonight, oh, well, tomorrow's a new day. You're right back on that meal plan again, or your habitual diet, your new habitual diet. But don't fall into that realm of becoming over obsessive. I can't eat that. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. Oh, you can if you want. It's not going to lead you to where you want to go. And if you decide to eat it, that's okay. Move on. You want to get away from extremisms. Like people try to be 100%. I'm going to be all this to be 100%. I'm never going to mess up between now and May. Oh, they're going to mess up for sure. Anybody who has that mentality is going to usually crack. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to have the most consistent exercise and nutrition I've had all year. I'm just going to work on being consistent, not perfect, consistent. And that person most likely will be closer to 100% than the person who has that perfecting mind, that perfect mindset. Perfect doesn't exist. It leads to failure. Best overall grade average is the person that wins. And that's how you have to look at it.
Well, that is a perfect way to end. And that is awesome. So I think I can see by the look on everybody's faces that was so inspiring and really
It
Awesome,
is. You
just
can't- you
awesome way to
can't be
end
perfect.
this.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
consistent.
want to eat healthy, but you don't want to feel restricted. And that's the hardest part people have. Restriction comes from a perspective. It's a perspective only. As soon as you change your perspective and you realize that, oh, I can have blueberry pie if I want to, but it's kind of going to put behind for the week. Maybe I'll have one at the end of the week. But if you run that road of, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, you're going to have problems.
That's right.
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. This
No
was
problem.
awesome. I so appreciate your time. This was so inspiring.
No problem.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, this is going
Yeah.
to be
Nice talking to
on
you.
The Ethical Nurse on Instagram, Fit and Fierce over 50 on Instagram, and Erin McDermott on Facebook. And if you are a woman over 40 and you want to get in this group where we interview experts in the field of fitness and nutrition, and contact me because we allow you to ask your personal questions. Have a good night.
Have a good
Awesome.
night.
Take care.
Okay, thanks,
Bye.
Chris. Take care. Merry Christmas. I mean, Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
Yep.
Happy
Thank
New
you.